Hello peoples, welcome to the Stoked Bloke preview show. I'm Barton Lynch and I am the Stoked Bloke. This is my fine feathered friend here, Peter King, and we're here today to look at the Teahupo'o event. Now, one of the hardest names of a surfing spot there is to say properly. We're going to check in a little later in the show with Vahine Fierro and we'll get it from her, but I'm thinking the Aussies would say what, Chopu?
Chopes,
Chopu, end of the road's most probably even easier than that, but Teahupo'o is most probably my best.
Does it mean end of the road or place of the skulls?
Yeah, there's that story, the fighting tribes and the stacking of the skulls at the end of the road as a deterrent from people coming and you know, marauding in their land. So it's quite a sight, quite a thought, and I suppose that matches the craziness of the wave itself because, honestly, PK, in my wildest dreams, I would never have imagined that people would surf waves of that magnitude. I was there in 1991, and I was staying at Vahine, David's house. And
Did you guys surf airport?
We were good. We surfed Tahupuna mostly, and then the habit then was when Tahupuna went flat, you would go to the end of the road and there'd be some leftover residual swell and it was flat at Tahupuna and said, jump in, we're going to go down to another spot I know and paddle out there, and it was 2 to 4 foot and terrifying. And I remember thinking to myself, like, it is so shallow and the reef is right there, like literally meters in front and below is just reef everywhere you could see, and it was tiny. And low energy swell too. And then, I'm at home and I start seeing images of it. Take us to the Laird wave even, as that monumental moment in history. And I still to this day, I just scratch my head. And it speaks to how incredible the talent of surfers is today and how far surfing has come. When you look at the waves that they ride, and it wasn't so long ago where Nazare didn't exist, or at best it was a tow wave, and then they start paddling at Jaws, same, right? It came along and it was like, that's a tow wave, there's no way you could paddle that, and then the humans show what they can do and they go out there and start paddling it, and all of a sudden it's not a tow wave anymore, it's a paddle wave. And Teahupo'o is the same deal. It's one of those crazy images that you used to draw as a kid. And everyone says it, when you're a kid, you used to draw those crazy big images, a little stick figure riding the wave, and now they're doing it real time. And I suppose then, if we kind of look at some of the dates for the event, August 11th to 21, the forecast for that period at this point in time looks pretty ordinary at the start. They've had, in the last 3 weeks, they have had non-stop howling wind, rain squalls, and no swell. It's been absolute rubbish since the big swell, those 2 back-to-back big swells, since that point in time, it has just been, I've seen Courtney Conlong's posts of her just getting pelted with rain and hail, and she's out in the boat with jackets on and shivering away, and it's most probably been the perfect weather you would want before your waiting period starts.
Right. You don't want it to be perfect before the comp starts.
And they had a good run. They had an incredible run of waves and things were looking ominous. This forecast at the back end, the 17th, 18th, 19th, in around that period looks solid. 6 feet at 16 seconds, 8 feet at 16 seconds, so significant period that could relate to 8 to 12 foot surf perhaps.
How many days do they need now to run a CT event?
It's a really good question. I wouldn't have a freaking clue.
Because they told us that it was the best thing ever to get rid of people, to chop people and send them home was the greatest thing ever. So it created more drama and less waiting time. So it used to take about 4.5 days.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's less.
Yeah, it's definitely less. I think it's 3.
3.5.
And it was one of the things I was going to talk to was that mid-year cut, and there's people, Joel Chianca, for example, who just had, that mid-year cut in an attempt to create publicity, to create drama, to create a more workable format, whatever it is. There's some pros and cons, and the only good thing I see is it taking less time to run. And it does bring up this point of WSL when it was ASP, say, for example, we used to look at that as the world's governing body of professional surfing. And the ISA, into the Olympics is kind of that grassroots foundational pillar of the sport. So that brought up that thought for me, like, is this a sporting body or is this a private business that is in the business of making money, although that may have been a difficult thing to this point in time. As a private company or a business, it has an agenda to stop its bleeding, I suppose, at some point in time. And then you look at them with the mid-year cut, taking the last event of the year away from Pipeline. And for me, I don't see kids' careers as something that you create drama with. Their surfing's what you create drama with. And cutting people at a mid-year cut off of the tour and giving them half a year after they've spent their lives preparing for this moment, money, investment of parents and family over all those years into sponsorships and all of that stuff, and you get 4 or 5 events and that should go at the CT, to me is just unacceptable. And we're going to do an episode on that. I've got some interviews lined up with people who were involved in the discussions, and my understanding is discussions didn't go that well. My understanding is that people walked out at certain points in discussions as well, and it was kind of forced upon them rather than being something. But I think that's something that would be really interesting to investigate into and understand. But I feel for those people who suffer at that mid-year cut and get that half a year. It really irks me. So I don't notice any difference. Whether I've watched the pre-cut events and the after-cut events, I don't notice anything dramatically better, dramatically different. I did look at the heat draws for this event, and you take out John Florence, Gabriel Medina are the 2 best out there from the international field, and we'll talk wildcards in just a minute. But I looked through the draw, and the name that got me, the name where I went, oh, that's exciting, was Barron Mamiya. He's one person who made the mid-year cut. He did get those results here and won Sunset, and that gave him the platform to still be there and survive the mid-year cut. But since then, I may not have even known he did make the mid-year cut.
Barron made the mid-year cut because he won Sunset, one of the first 2 events. And then the WSL had the good graces to keep inviting him, as they did not do with Moana, who won the first event and got into the second event. They did not bring her along and give her a chance to qualify. She should have been in this event, I think. But I think she would have earned it if they would have given her the chance. They didn't. Barron got the chance and has made it in.
And I agree 100%. I watched Moana. We watched Moana win that event. We know what a talent she is. She went to Sunset off the back of the victory. I'm going to say it. I believe she was underscored in both her heats. That you go in your first round heat and she lost that, and then she went in the next one and lost that. In my opinion, she was underscored in both of those heats on critical rides, and it was almost like spoke to an agenda or a narrative or a script. And it was the great Robert Bartholomew who said to me back when I was a kid, BL, you've got to write yourself into the script. And it was something that resonated with me. It stayed with me forever. And I've always been conscious, we talked about this before, of what are the storylines. And it's easier for me to think in that term. And Moana had sort of said that she wasn't so much interested in competing. And she kind of took a turn away from that, then had that success at Pipeline. And in my mind too, we've seen her surf small waves. I saw your post of her at Ala Moana on a 3-foot wave, just ripped the bag out of it. And I was like, wow, look at that small wave surfing. I didn't know. But given the opportunity, we may have all. So we're going to catch up with her. Should we give her a call and see if she's with us?
Yeah, check in with her right now.
So joining us, Moana, Jones, Wong, Pipeline Master, and Chopu's right around the corner, mate. How do you feel, I suppose, not being there and watching that play out?
I'm really sad because I really want to be at this so badly. Like, I'm kind of going crazy. But I'm going to go to Tahiti and I'm going to watch the contest. I'm going to fly out in a couple of days from now. So I'll be there the whole time the contest is on. And if someone gets injured and if they want me in the contest, they could put me in the contest because I'll be there. But if not, I'll definitely be surfing before the contest and after the contest every day.
That's a great idea, and you're just there in case you're ready on standby, ready to jump in that jersey if the opportunity presents.
Yep, if the opportunity presents itself, I will be there.
Unreal, unreal. Tell us, what are your thoughts on that location, Teahupo'o?
I love it there. I've had, so many great sessions the past couple months. I spent some time over there, and it wasn't like firing or anything, but it was like 4 feet and just so fun and so perfect. It's totally different than pipe, but I really like it.
How are those differences? Could you explain that?
Yeah, so pipe is kind of, I don't know, I think the takeoffs are totally different at both spots. At pipe, you don't take off the same way that you would take off at choke. You take off at choke, kind of take off under the wave. And at pipe, you're taking off kind of on top of the wave.
You got to be underneath it in that double up.
Yeah, you definitely have to be underneath it at chokes. And that's what I saw when I was watching, all the locals out there. I saw how they were paddling for the waves and how they were taking off for the waves. And that's how I kind of figured that out.
Mm. And tell us, Vahine Fierro, she's a wild card there, obviously. Very similar scenario to you at Pipeline, I suppose, where you go into that event with a lot of experience, I suppose favoritism, and everybody expecting things from you. What do you think she's got to handle? What's she got to deal with? How would she best handle this situation, seeing you've been through exactly the same thing already this year?
Yeah, so I think Vahine, everyone expects her to win this contest easily, So I think there is a lot of pressure on her, and I don't know how she's handling that pressure. But if she can handle it, and she has what it takes for sure to win. So I think it's kind of a walk in the park for her. So she should be able to take the win very easily, and it just depends, if she can handle all those expectations that everybody probably is put on top of her.
Yeah, and how did you do that at Pipeline? Did you feel similar to that at Pipeline?
I don't know. At Pipeline, I kind of felt that only the people that know me thought that I would do well, but everyone else thought that I was going to get smoked, I think.
Well, you didn't.
Because, I was reading a lot of the comments, and nobody really was saying Moana was going to win. Everybody was like Carissa or Tyler or Tati or Caroline. Like, everybody in the surfing world that's like a surf fan I didn't see anything from them that I was going to do well. But all the people from Pipe that know me, they all told me that I was going to do well, but I didn't know how I was going to do. I kind of didn't have any expectations at first, but I wanted to win, but I didn't know if I was going to be able to win.
After watching you at the backdoor shootout, the backdoor shootout, I had no doubt in my mind that you were in a position to win that thing if you just did what you could do, and you did that. So congratulations on that. I'd like to talk off the back of that. You go to Sunset Beach. You have a couple of close heats there, and I'm already on the record as saying I felt like you got a little underscored in a couple of those later rides in those heats that cost you advancement. And then you didn't get a wild card for the rest of the year. How did that feel? Did you ever get given a reason why you didn't get that wild card?
Yeah, so going into Sunset, I had I thought that I surfed pretty good, and I thought that I did my best, and it was a bummer not being able to continue. After winning a contest, you would think that you would be on for the rest of the year, because if you looked at last year, Carissa won a world title, but she actually only won like one event that whole year. And all the other girls, like within the top 5, all only won one event. So I thought, like, wow, I won one event, so I must be able to, keep going. But yeah, my run was very short. It got cut off. Because it was hard for me because I got to see Barton, who was like in a really similar situation as me, continue. And I just wish that I had that opportunity too. Like, That would have been crazy. But, you know, winning the pipe, the first ever women's pipe like contest, was pretty special to me, and that was definitely a dream come true. But also a dream come true would be to, you know, be competing on the championship tour. So yeah, hopefully I can maybe do the same thing again next year, and maybe it'll be different. I'll get to continue.
Well, we you know, I'm speaking for PK and we both feel the same way. We would love to have seen you get that wild card and continue on and get the opportunity to show those best ladies in the world what you could do. But I know that here in Hawaii and around the world, there's so much respect for you and the way you surf and the way you've handled this year. So even though you didn't get that wild card, I think your stakes and the respect for you have gone through the roof. So thanks for joining us. Any picks for the event? Who and what do you see in the female event that you think we should keep an eye out for?
I mean, I think it's very surprising is Vahine didn't win, because, you know, she has way more experience than anyone out there, because, I mean, she lived, like, in Tahiti, and she surfed there all the time. So it would be kind of, yeah, I think that she would definitely be the favorite coming into this event. But, you know, all the girls, it just, I don't know. There's a lot of good girls in barrels, I think, backside. Like, I've seen Carissa get some good backside barrels recently. Like, even at pipe, she was doing good backside. And Courtney Conalog, and Tyler, so, and Tati and Caroline. Like, I've seen them all get really good barrels. So you never know what could happen.
Let's just throw them in the air and see where they fall.
Hey, Moana, what about Barron? Is Barron going to win?
I mean, he should win.
I picked him. I see a great opportunity for Barron, hey, in these conditions with his experience at pipe.
Yeah, that heat of him and Kelly out at the pipe contest this past year was crazy, and I think that was for me my favorite heat of the entire event. That was so crazy watching Kelly get the score in like the last 10 seconds. I knew Kelly was going to make it because he's Kelly. I was like, you can never count him out.
He's got the magic.
So that was unfortunate. It was unfortunate for Barron having to go up against Kelly out at pipe. So I think Barron is definitely one to watch at this at the Chopes contest. Like, he's dangerous in barrels. Barron's crazy. Like, you should see him at Kiki Shorebreak.
Well, we appreciate you very much, hey, and we hope that at the last minute you get to pull on a jersey. We hope at the last minute that Matahi Drole gets to pull on a jersey, and we get to see the best in this field with the best and see the best person win.
That would be an awesome show. Yep. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Moana. Yeah, so what I see with Barron is this amazing opportunity where there's no expectation. The field, the front runners in that field at this particular venue aren't in the field. It looks super wide open when you look at it. I see opportunities for Italo to stand up and follow some Gabrielle Medina magic out there and pick those ones that you don't eat it on. And, you know, Medina's the only guy who can get through a whole event and not fall once. No wipeouts, no bad wave selection, no misuses of priority, and it's a tight, clean, safe little road to success. And if Italo could find something similar to that, this could be his moment to stand up and claim his place in that sort of big wave or up, you know, more challenging wave echelon, because, you know, we know he's amazing in the airs and in more traditional styles. We've seen great things from him at Pipeline too, but it hasn't sort of translated into competitive moments that you remember forever. But on that front, I think old Jack Robbo comes to mind as well. So I see big things for Jack Robbo if he can just keep that momentum going, because he's got the skill level to match John, Gabrielle, anyone. So he's, you know, when you look at the skill level that those guys have, the upper echelon of tube riding in Tahiti, it is the guys who aren't there Kelly maybe, John and Gabrielle no. You take them out of the field and then, Italo pops out as an experienced campaigner and someone who could see this moment and just sees it and all of a sudden have a win there and it'd be amazing. Jack Robbo's got the competitive momentum that's just been building all year. I see that story having another amazing moment maybe. And then it goes to lowers and the Brazilians may come to the fore again, and there's, you go, I don't know how that goes at lowers, but I can see this one having power for him if he can get that momentum going and use the skill, because he's got more skill than maybe anyone else in the field, and the only other person that has that level of skill is Barron Mamiya in my mind.
So you see Jack, Barron, Italo, top 3 on the men's.
I see them as the ones where I'd be banking on those guys. Robbo with his competitive success and momentum. Italo on the fact that it hasn't been there and it's going to be there at some point because he's too good for it not to be there at some point. And this you would dream of that. You would go, I would give up all year for Chopu.
Those 3 guys you mentioned, even though Barron's not in the finals, it feels like those 3 guys would be thinking about this event, and that's all they'd be thinking about. They wouldn't even be thinking past this to the finals.
No.
These guys look at this event as something that means so much to them.
Yeah. And it's one of my shortcomings. I tried to look at them all the same as a discipline. So whether it was the Marui Pro at Nijima Island or the Pipeline Masters, in my mind I went, they're all the same. Don't prioritise. Don't look at this thing as better than that and that more important than that, and just every event counts, every heat counts, everything counts. And I almost sterilised that experience for myself. But I was doing it to try and create competitive advantage in moments. But really, I think I blew it, because I think you've got to look at those big moments and work towards them. And for Barron too, it's been a quiet year.
But for you, those were aggregate years. There was no finals. You needed points. Those points were the same for every event. So in a way, that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, and if you were...
And you had 32 events a year.
Yeah, and if you were already in the top 5, more or less, or quite secured in that top 5, it is all about that one moment before that anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a little different.
So I think that, for me, Barron Mamiya is the wild card. He's going to have a moment. He's too good not to. And he's got that skill level of the very best. He's got the experience out here that is the perfect translation, more or less. And he's had a quiet year like Italo. I expect something out of those 2 guys. So, yeah, they'd be my top 3.
Barron, that's a second home to him. Matahi stays with him when he comes here, and he stays with Matahi there. He goes back and forth all year. He's very comfortable living in that environment.
Well, you brought him up, not me. So let's talk wildcards.
Kauli Vast won the trials.
Kauli Vast won the trials, and he is the future of Tahitian surfing, and obviously someone who is incredibly talented in beach breaks, and if it's small and not so good, he could go out there and blow up and throw airs and win dirty or ugly. He can also go there, and we've seen that, that tow wave he got might have been the biggest wave ever ridden there. That was just terrifying, and he's a young man with a giant heart, and he wants this. He sees it. But Matahi, on the other hand, I don't know that you can run an event at this venue without that guy in it. I feel like if you ask anyone in the world who is the best surfer out there, and you take, you've got those couple of tour surfers we've mentioned, Kelly, Gabrielle, John, but you go, I think even those guys say Matahi Drole. And so for me, I was really disappointed to not see him get a wild card into the event. There may be a late pull out that gives WSL an out of jail card almost. We know that out of known team rider, Nathan Hedge got the wild card. Hedgie's a great mate. I love Hedgie, and he's one of those guys we spent a lot of time with on tour. He was a young bloke, came through when we were older, and
it feels weird to put a novelty wild card into this event, doesn't it?
It feels super weird to me. It baffles me. I'm baffled by the concept of overlooking Matahi Drole for Nathan Hedge. I understand commercial responsibilities and the sponsors, but at the same time, you want the best in the event. And Hog's a great, Nathan Hedge, that's his nickname, Hog. He's a great surfer. Since finding sobriety, he has changed his life. He has turned his life around. He's acted and behaved in a way that has made him proud. You know what I mean? He's spent so much time working on himself and making himself who he is today. And he's a great, I still call him a kid, but he's a great guy. He's got a beautiful heart, and he's all the best to him. But it's a bit of a wild card out of left field when you're at Teahupo'o and Nathan Hedge gets the wild card ahead of Matai Drolle. I've got to say it just doesn't feel right to me. When I was a kid, the wild card would go to, in Australia, say, to the APSA, Australian Professional Surfing Association champion.
That's
if you've
fair.
won those rankings. So say in Tahiti, you're the leader of those rankings and you've done those events and you've deserved that opportunity or that wild card.
I wouldn't even call that a wild card. I would just call that you earned a slot in the event.
And I would like to see that principle of earning those places in events apply across the board. And one that came to mind when we switched to the women's is Sally Fitzgibbons getting the wild card for the second half of the year. That was a thanks for coming, thanks for supporting, thanks for playing here. We'll have a go around the block one more time or whatever. And it was kind of a gift for years served, I suppose. But in that sense, is that right? Is it right? Or are there people coming up through the sport that those jobs for people or those opportunities for people that you like or that you know or that have, that you're close with, that's where it doesn't feel like a sport and more like a business or more like a commercial opportunity that's over here, and this thing's got its surfers who are contracted to it, and they go around and they do their shows and they put the people where they want, where they see value for sponsors, value for headlines and value for the organisation. But really it should be based on the points and the ratings and the efforts of the surfers regardless of any of the commercial realities.
Women's side, top three.
And that's going to be a condition-based thing, isn't it? It's going to come down to what they decide to run it in.
Who decides, by the way? You've been at those events.
Yeah, I suppose Renato Hickel, they often have a local advisor that kind of works with them, Adam Robbo at Bells Beach or whatever it is, who works with them to make the correct decisions in that time period. I think that it's going to be super interesting. I know that there have been a few trips there this year by the ladies, and we've seen some good footage. We've seen some great tube rides. I feel Courtney Conlog is in that kind of Italo, Barron Mamiya mould where things haven't been going, and she's a
backsider.
And she is a backsider who's willing to go. She would be willing to get cut and sacrifice herself on the reef for success.
Wow.
And I think that it's been kind of some quiet times for her, and I just feel like everybody, you stay there long enough, you keep going long enough, like Kelly's win at Pipeline this year, you stay there, you keep going, you keep working, you get your just desserts, and I could see some coming her way. And Vahine, obviously, her main threat, I would imagine, in waves of consequence would be Tatiana. I think Tatiana's she's on the front side, she's a goofy footer, she's going to have, and having grown up in Hawaii, she's going to have the skills. She's got the skill set. She's going to have the courage, and she's got a lot of desire and coming off some good momentum this year too. So I would put them as my top three. Caroline Marks is a really and a great opportunity there. She surfed. I saw her at the US Open, and she was amazing.
That's a good way to say it. It's a great opportunity for her.
Yeah,
but you wouldn't put her in the favourites yet.
Well, I mean, in a basic sense, I would have to put her ahead of Courtney maybe, and Courtney's maybe more an emotional one, or one of those ones where I can see momentum and imagine that it's going to turn her way. So we've got Stephanie Gilmore, Brissa Hennessy and Isabella Nichols, first heat. Second heat, Carissa Moore, Gabriella Bryan, Vahine Fierro. Third heat, Joanne Defay, which we'd have to consider as with her backhand and how comfortable she is on reef breaks. She's definitely a chance. And then Tyler Wright and Caroline Marks in Heat 3 with her. Tyler will be interesting to watch and see how that translates. Definitely feel like her forehand's way better than the backhand and her tube riding, but she stands up too. So that's going to be interesting. And then Tatiana, Lakey Peterson and Courtney Conlog in Heat 4. So no Bronte. Couple of goofies there with Vahine and Tatiana and Caroline. So you'd put them as your three, and then as a natural footer, I would throw Courtney in there as a wild card, as someone who her day will come. I feel that.
Do you think Carissa's going to get a barrel out there?
Yeah, I do. I think, again, it's all going to depend on the size of the surf. And if there's a 3-day period, and we figure they need 3 days, say, and they've got 3 days of that swell window, they could finish it in that, which is the 17th, 18th and 19th, or it looks like now. Obviously it can move. That's a week away still. It could move around a little bit. But, yeah, that's, you talk historic, and the waves end up being the historic thing, don't they? The women could surf a pipeline, but if it's 3 feet and onshore, it's not really historic. Historic for me was the backdoor shootout. When they put Bethany Hamilton and Moana and the ladies into the heats with the guys, judged them as the guys, and those ladies did things that I've never seen. It was a historic event for women's surfing, and it wasn't in the umbrella, so it most probably didn't get the attention that the performances at that event deserved. It was massive pipe, 10 to 15, doubling, second reef, triple ups coming through, and so, it would be great to see the ladies get their chance and be challenged in that way. We've got a special guest who's going to join us. She's got the wild card in this event, Vahine Fierro from Tahiti. Now, Vahine and I, PK, we've worked together for about 3 years now. We started at the very, very beginning of COVID, and so we haven't been able to see each other and work in person, but we've worked remotely through that whole period, Zoom meetings, phone calls, and have been through an enormous amount together. Obviously, the ISAs, she qualified for the Olympics, but because there were 2 French girls in front of her, she didn't get a spot. So she missed the Olympics by 1 spot. On the WCT at the end of last year, she also missed the World Championship Tour by 1 spot. And so, it was a traumatic year for her. In and amongst that, there were some crazy COVID stories and, a young girl trying to achieve her dreams in the midst of that insanity that the world was going through. And I've been so proud of her, her effort. She doesn't need to do competitions. She could be the Chopu Princess, Jerry Lopez of female surfing, and have that as her claim to fame forever. But she wants to compete. She's gone through all of that heartache in the last 12 or so months, and just still fronts up. Wow. And I'm so proud of her. And let's give her a call now and have a chat to her on the eve of having her wild card into this incredible event for women's surfing.
Can you hear me well? Because it's raining really hard.
Yeah, we can hear you. Did you make Vahine yet, or?
Yeah, I've been on Vahine. I'm leaving tonight to go back on Tahiti.
Yeah.
I just went for a day.
How's it feel to be home?
It feels really good. I had to come and kind of reset here, and even if it was just for one night, sleeping in my bed for one night was just what I needed.
And how are you feeling? Obviously, a lot of attention, a lot of requests for media, and people excited about your wild card.
Yes, that's true. A lot of media, local media mostly, and then a couple WSL media as well that are asking a couple questions and stuff. But I think it's normal when you get invited. Then people are interested why you're invited, and it's normal to answer to all of that. So, and I'm super excited. I got the wild card last year, and it didn't happen due to COVID. And then this year, I'm grateful that they gave it to me once again. So, it's gonna be a nice show for everyone.
And I see the first heat with Carissa Moore and Gabriella Bryan, a couple of Hawaii.
Yeah, that's true. Well, when you're wild card, you're always going to fall against number 1, so I already knew that, and then I was just waiting on the second person who was going to be that second person, and it's going to be an interesting heat because it's going to be 2 regulars against just 1 goofy, and then we'll see how they judge that, and because it's probably going to be a bit different how we surf and how we approach the waves at Teahupo'o, but it can only be a good heat, and win or lose, we're still going one more heat after. So Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Warm up. And I was going to ask you that. How do you pronounce this word? It must be one of the most butchered words. Chopu, chopes.
Well, when she
Teahupo'o.
says it, it sounds incredible.
Hey, say that again for us.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry for this word because everybody pronounces so so badly, and then when they pronounce chopu, it means a soup in Tahitian.
Soup.
Like the noodle soup that we eat. That's what it means. So I'm like,
Noodle
okay.
soup.
But so how you pronounce it well is Teahupo'o.
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 You pronounce all the letters in that word.
Teahupo'o.
Yeah.
See,
all
about
the
time
sounds.
someone cleared that up.
I think you got to work on Barton pronouncing your name.
He usually calls me V, so I don't hear the rest of the name.
Well, your name after the contest is going to be Champ. So
Okay, that's good.
And any feelings about the event? How are you going to deal with the pressure of that situation? Obviously, a big moment in your career, and I know we had a moment there at Huntington Beach just last week at the US Open, which has got to be the most contrasting, different place you could possibly be to the end of the road. You've had a lot of experience in different conditions, and do you think that's going to be valuable?
Yeah, it's gonna be a refreshing event, and there's obviously the pressure of doing well because I'm probably renowned for surfing that wave well and spending a lot of time there. But I think I just there's not really any pressure for me because I just want to enjoy and having a heat with two other people out, and you get the chance of getting the best wave of your life out there within that heat. So I will take it any day.
Tell us the story of your most recent wipe out there and what that experience was like, because I know you hadn't really had a wipe out of that magnitude before.
Yes, right before going to Huntington, the day I took the plane, and it was my last session out there. I haven't surfed there since then, which was a humbling experience. I spent two waves underwater, and then got 3 other waves on the head after that 2-wave hold down, and ended up hitting the reef, going in the lagoon, and nobody could really get me between those waves because the interval was so short that the jet skis couldn't pick me up. So I kind of made my way in the lagoon by myself, and I made a mistake by paddling a bit slow, and then I fell at the takeoff, and then I was spinning in circles underwater, not moving, and then I decided to try to come out of this turbulence I was, and then the turbulence I went in brought me down, and I hit the reef right away. And my guts are almost dry. It's been a good 2 weeks, but yeah, that was my last experience there, and hopefully I won't do that in my heat, get a 2-way pull down, because it is quite scary.
Well, you know what? I think it's a great thing that happens on the eve of a competition when you're in this position for nature to kind of humble you and go, okay, you better, I'm sure that'll stop you from taking anything for granted.
I think the reason why I fell on that wave is because I was too comfortable and I didn't pay attention. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, everything was going so fast, and then I kind of, in a way, was, for me, it was too easy to get that wave, and all of a sudden, I was beating it at the takeoff and spent 2 waves in the water. So it did put me back on, paying attention, being aware of what's happening in the water, and not really, paying attention out there is a big thing.
Unreal, mate. Well, hey, I'm so proud of you. We've been through a lot together these last few years, and you just keep giving and keep pushing and keep challenging yourself, and I'm so proud of you, and we can't wait to watch the event. I swear I might even shed a tear. It's going to be exciting to watch. So all the best to you. Thanks for joining us for a quick chat.
Vahine.
Thank you. Well, I'm probably going to call you tomorrow because the day after is the contest, and I'm probably gonna need a couple tips.
Let's tune in tomorrow.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you
mate.
so much.
All the best.
Yeah.
See you. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Wow, impressive.
It's such an impressive young lady, eh? And comes where she lives is a tropical paradise, and the view from their lanai is a postcard. And they go and surf these waves they get in the boat to go surf every time, and they're out in a tropical paradise, and there's you and your family and your friends, and then you end up, say, Huntington Beach in a competition, and there's thousands of people, and all of the craziness that is Southern California and that town, and she's just taken all such amazing experiences in a stride, but this week's going to be a big one. This is the final event before the final 5 World Championship showdown at Lower Trestles. It's at one of the most famous waves in the world. It's a wave that terrifies me. I'm sure it terrifies you, and terrifies most people who surf it or even watch it and think about surfing it. And we're going to see the best surfers in the world go at it, male and female. And I'm just hoping Matahi Drole gets a chance. But the interesting thing is he's still got to compete. So he can go there, and he has lost in this event before. So you can go there as the best, the very best guy out there, and not compete well and lose. So you can be the best surfer out there, but you've got to be a good competitor as well. So it's going to be interesting to watch how both Vahine and Kaoli Vast manage their advantage that they have at this point in time, and how they compete, and whether they compete smartly. And then the rest of the field, there's going to be some good battles for that final 5, but they've still got to compete. And you might be the best guy in the world out there free surfing, but you might not be the best competitor out there. And that's this field that we have at WSL, they are the best competitors, and they've competed their way to this place, generally speaking, largely speaking, and their surfing backs it up, but it's based on competing. And to date, Matahi hasn't had that competitive success, so there's a bit of a gap there, which could be a reason or a reality for someone trying to make a decision. But at the same time, I'm 100% behind wanting to see him in the event, and I'm hoping that at the last minute he gets a jersey and we get excited. We go, okay, let's see how this goes. They get real waves. They put the ladies out there in those real waves too, and we get to see the type of show that our sport deserves.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.